Welcome to another episode of So It's Not Just Me, the podcast where we explore how different aspects of life can impact our mental health and share practical tips for managing stress. I'm your host, Joanna, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that affects everyone, but we don't really talk about it or think about it too much, and that is the evolution of friendships and the realization that it's okay to let go when a friendship grows apart. Following on from the relationship podcast, I asked Stacy to join us today so she can talk to us as well about friendships and how they have evolved with age and changing. So, with that, welcome, Stacy.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
I'm glad you're here. So, we're gonna, as I always say, dive straight in, and we are both approaching 40, and over those 40 years, I'm sure we've had so many different friendships that have come and gone and some that have stayed. So, can you tell us a little bit about some of your friendships that have evolved, how they've evolved, and what you do to work at them to keep them strong?
I have got like a really close friendship group where there is a handful of us that have gone all the way through secondary school together. And then at the end of that, still came out with a friendship, kept in contact with each other through university, even though we all went to separate universities. And then have stayed a strong friendship throughout our lives. Bridesmaids at each other's weddings, godparents to each other's kids. Um, all the hard times and all the good times together. And as you said, we're approaching 40 now, and that friendship is still going strong. And it is a group of us, but we do tend to do a lot of things together. But we also sort of split off into separate like entities as well and do things separately. So there's things that you would do with certain friends in that group that you might not do with one of the other friends, and we've always found a balance that way. There's never been any sort of like jealousies or anything like that. It's always been, oh, you've gone out with so and so this weekend. That looked really fun. I'll love to come next time. Or you might go on holiday with one person out of the group, but you might not go with the others. And you know, all of them have got kids apart from one. Um, you know, we've gone through different careers. We've gone through divorces. We've gone through grief, miscarriages, it and sort of like held each other up and gone through. But it stood the test of time. But I think because each one of us is different personalities and brings something different to the table, it's it's gelled everybody together differently. And I'm not saying that it's always been plain sailing, and I'm not saying that we are best of friends at all times, because there's always going to be disagreements, especially in a group of women.
Oh,
um,
yes.
but I think the fact that we've always been able to disagree but still appreciate that doesn't mean that we aren't friends just because we have a difference of opinion. We don't hate each other because we have a different opinion. And we keep certain aspects of our lives separate so that we've got something to talk about, something to relate to. But I think again at the same time, each one of us treats the friendship differently to the others as well. I don't think we don't walk into that friendship group all expecting the same week in, week out. We treat it differently. Like there's always the organizer, someone who plans all the meals, someone who plans the holidays, someone who plans the barbecues, and then there's always the one that's late. There's always somebody
Oh, yeah.
throwing themselves in there like 40 minutes after everybody's already started eating. There's always one that if you don't book them 6 months in advance, they're going to be busy, the busiest people in the world. um there's the one that you can turn to even at 4 o'clock in the morning.
And the one that you definitely
It's
can't turn to at 4 o'clock in the
yeah,
morning as well.
100%. There's the ones where if you want a solution to a problem, you go to them. There's the one if you need sympathy, you go to them. There's the one if you just need frankness and like blunt honestness. And I think everybody plays a different part, and we all play it differently for each other as well, I think. So I think that makes that friendship has lasted for as long as it has, because there's so much diversity. We're not all the same. and it's never felt hard. It's never felt hard
Right.
work.
That's what the key is, I think, when it's not hard work. Um, so I know that I always considered, family as friends anyway, but my absolute all-time best friend, he's a guy. And we met when we was about 12, 13 years old. And as I say, we're almost 40 now. We met at school and we have been friends all that time. And I cannot imagine a day, or well, it's not every day I speak to him, but we make equally amount of effort. And that's what I think sometimes really does help with friendships as well. So I'm the planner in our friendship group. In every friendship group that I'm in, I am the planner. If I don't have the plan to a T, then I'm not going because I need to be organized. That's
I
probably
get
some
that.
sort of OCD.
Yeah, without a
But
doubt.
he understands that. Yeah, he understands that if we have a schedule that we're doing something, we'll be there at the right time. Um, Distance has never been an issue with me now living in America and him being in England. And I find as well that the friendship works so well because not only do we have so much in common, we have so much that isn't in common. We are so different people as well. And it works really nicely. And he absolutely adores Kyle. Kyle adores him. So it's great, which always helps. Because sometimes I think when you're in a friendship group, it's intimidating for your partners.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when you
Absolutely.
you can sort of say to your partner, "Well, I don't need to talk to you about this right now. I'm talking to the girls."
Yeah.
And that's what I get with Kyle. Sometimes I'm like, "You're not the person I need to talk to right now. Yes, you're my bestest friend in the whole wide world. That's why I married you. But it's a girl thing. It's a friendship thing. It's a group thing that we need to discuss."
Not just that either. I think that, your best friends are the people that you are open and honest with about everything. And when it comes to your partnership, your relationships, your marriages, there are things that you go and tell your friends that you wouldn't tell anybody else because they don't pass judgment. But then for a partner
Yes.
to then go into that friendship group knowing that all those friends know the deepest, darkest
No,
secrets,
absolutely
you know,
everything.
you don't pick your pants up off the floor. Your girlfriend or your wife's best mate knows that, without a doubt.
Yep. Yep, they've seen the photographic evidence of everything around the washing basket and just laying
Yeah.
everywhere or, you know, that's my biggest gripe. I'm sorry, we're not gonna talk about that today, but that is my biggest gripe is, "Hey, I've moved the washing basket to your side of the bed, and it's right next to where you dump your stuff. Why can you still not put it in?"
But your
And
best friend
every
knows
one of
that
my
though,
friends
don't
are like,
they?
"She does."
Your
Well,
best
he
friend knows
does.
that.
They do, they do. And I think that my best friend being a guy helps, with his relationship. So he knows how to act
Probably.
with his girlfriend.
Probably. Absolutely, no doubt. You are definitely setting him up for success there.
Yes, yes. See, everyone needs a guy best friend so they can keep them on the steady path and whatever. Um, so obviously these friendships have lasted all this test of time. Have you ever thought, or have ever been in a friendship that you thought, this is just not working? We're just growing apart. We're too different, or anything like that.
um, I've had two, what I would class as very good friendships, that have one ended quite abruptly, and the other sort of like drifted, if that makes sense. So it was more of a steady separation rather than a, you know, cut the
Over and
cut
done.
the cord kind of thing. And I think both for very different reasons as well. Um, and I mean, I don't mind talking about it. So, um, one girl who I met when I was about 16, and I would absolutely, all the way through sixth form, and then after sixth form, would have put them in the bracket of being my best friend. And, the family relationships that she had with my family and that I had with her family, um, was what sort of made me think I'm going to be best friends with this girl forever. She's my person. She's my type of person, and that's, I mean, that was a separate friendship to my main friendship group, but we just gelled so well and we got on so well, and I loved her. I loved her so much, and I still do. And I don't ever think that she'll ever not be a part of my life in some way, shape, or form. But now it's a fleeting friendship.
Right.
It if I see you, we catch up. It's like we've never lost touch, and then I might not see them again for another year or another 6 months. And I didn't realize that friendship was coming to an end. I was very much blindsided by that. And she was going through a terrible separation
Right.
from her husband and really struggling with her identity. And I was having kids and getting married. And I don't think I realized the impact that was having, because when things were falling apart for her, she was at my doorstep. Sometimes when I wasn't there, Matthew rang me one evening and said, "You're going to have to come home because this person was at the door he couldn't make any sense out of them because they were so upset." And so I packed whatever I was doing and went home to be there. And that was the type of friendship that we had, that we were always there for each other no matter what. um, when we were having tough times, and I did exactly the same with her, probably many times over the years. And she saw some of my toughest times and I saw some of her toughest times, but they so happened to coincide with some of my best times and some of her best times. And I think
Right.
that she was really struggling herself, and that made it really tough for her to do both. And she had young children. I just got Penny at the time, um, and we did our wedding child free, as you know, apart from
Yeah.
immediate family and children that were in the wedding party. And I remember sending the wedding invite out, and she was like, "Oh yeah, this is good. I can't wait. I'm so excited." And she didn't come to my wedding.
Huh. Oh, I didn't know that.
She didn't come to my wedding, and
Was that
she
because it was child free, or just she just
I don't know. I don't know. It was a question that I never asked and never got answered. And to be honest with you, I didn't feel I needed to. Um,
right?
there was some excuses made about something else, and I just sort of felt a little bit like a sucker punch to the stomach. Like, is this person, you know, really there for me when they can't turn up for the best, what should have been the most happiest day of my life? But on reflection, I completely understand why. I completely understand why.
Right.
I remember turning down invitations to baby showers when I was struggling with miscarriages. And I suppose when you're going through an immensely stressful separation, and it becomes very toxic and very, gut wrenching, seeing somebody happy and joyful and full of love and being in that environment without maybe having the comfort blanket of your children. And because she was from outside of my usual friendship group, not having people that she was close to as well, it must have been a really, really hard thing for
Yeah.
her not to do that. And then naturally after that, the friendship sort of petered off. And there were things that we did together. There was still the odd occasion where we went on a night out, or we, did things for the kids. But after that, it was never the same. And I don't think I was really heartbroken that she didn't come to my wedding, but it wasn't until a few years later that I really put into perspective why she didn't. And I
Right.
think I've absolutely come to terms with that now. And I still adore the girl, she's happy now. And if I see her, I will always talk to her. I'll always say hello. She sees my mum every now and again, and they'll have a chat. I see her mum, strangely enough, on a dog walk in Edenthorpe, which we did not expect. And just little things like that, where if she rang me tomorrow, I'd be there.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to forgive the situation because I felt so betrayed. I felt so
Yes.
hurt. Um, I felt like I'd lost her. She was gone. Like, how could somebody who professed to be my best friend not show up for me on one of the most important days of my life? And I couldn't get my head around that. Um, and Matthew couldn't understand it either because of how close we were, and obviously he'd seen the closeness. But I just guess as time went on, I just sort of thought, right, okay, I can't live with this bitterness and this feeling of have I done something wrong? Because I never asked the question because I didn't want to know. I think I
Right.
didn't want to know. I didn't want to know if I'd done something wrong because then all the hurtful feelings that I was feeling would have been my fault. And I
Yeah.
don't know whether I did. I don't think I'll ever know because I don't think I'll ever broach that subject. But I think naturally, on reflection, she was really struggling, and I didn't see the impact that my happiness was having on her,
Yes. Yeah.
if that makes
I
sense.
remember during COVID, was it during COVID or just after? Like, I think it was towards the end of COVID. I remember speaking to one of my sisters, and I'd been let down again by a certain friend of mine who lets me down a lot, we'll say. Um, and during COVID, I know I don't look it right now. A lot during COVID, I lost over £140. Moved to America just after COVID. We got married, all these things. Um, I know COVID was a terrible time for so many people. But for me, I studied, like I say, I lost the weight, I changed my life, I changed me as a person for the better. And I remember speaking to my sister saying how I was really struggling because this friend kept letting me down and letting me down. And she said, well, maybe you don't realize the bigger picture, what's going on with her. And I think that's kind of like the same thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
You don't always know the bigger picture. And I get that. You don't always want to talk about the bigger picture. Um, and I think sometimes when you're the kind of person that is always there for the friend, um, no matter what's going on in your own life, and they just can't, it hurts. And I think it's okay for you to feel hurt when you're not getting the same treatment back that you're giving.
No, I agree. I agree completely. And I think, there will be some friendships where there's always going to be more give than take from one side and vice versa. But you've still got to find a balance. And when it becomes all you're the person that's doing all the giving and they're the person that's doing all the taking, it's whether you are comfortable continuing down that road. And,
Yes.
and some friendships may work like that. Some friendships will work entirely based like that if both parties are comfortable to the situation. But when it becomes hurtful and repetitive and it's impacting you on a regular basis, where emotionally you're feeling, what more can I do? What more can I do to
Yes.
save this this friendship? And uh, it's like the penultimate end to a relationship. You fight for any relationship, but when it's somebody that you love, but there has to be a point where you say enough is enough.
Yeah. I think that's something that I've been going through for the last year or so with a couple of different kind of friendship groups. and hearing from other people saying the same kind of thing. Like, at what point do you say, I can't take this anymore?
Yeah.
Um, and it's not because you don't want to take it anymore. It's just you physically don't know what more you can do. And you talk to other people about it, and people have spoke to me about it, about their personal issues as well. And it is, we kind of mentioned this before we started recording today. It is grieving. You have to grieve for a friendship that's no longer there, and all the hard work and effort that you've put into it that just seems to be so dwindled away. And then you look back and think, has it always been like this? I think
Yes.
the main point that I found was when I moved to America. I I un- I unexpectedly moved to America. I didn't plan on being here. I was eventually going to be here, I'm sure, because obviously I married an American. But when I came over for the 3-week vacation, I wasn't planning on staying here. I caught COVID, and then we got married, and one thing led to another, and here I am legally. I am legally here. Um, just get that out there. So
Get that out
I
there.
didn't do anything wrong. I did everything legally.
I am not an alien.
I'm still an alien. I'm just a legal alien now. um, but that's when I really noticed the difference in my friendships and who was always there and who was kind of made me feel like out of sight, out of mind. And I'm
Yes,
not saying
and I
that's a bad
think
thing. It's
that,
really not a bad thing.
yeah,
Um, when you're in the same country as someone, is so easy. Okay, it's not easy. It's easier to say, "Hey, I'm going here for lunch." You're in the same time zone for a start, so you have lunch at the same time. Um, but it's easy to say, "Right, I'll drive to you. You don't have to get out of your pajamas. I'll drive to you."
yeah.
When you're not in the same country, time zone, area, it's sometimes difficult, I guess, to arrange something. I know with a lot of people, it's just a phone call, so it's fine. We can do that. But other people, it seems that that phone call is so difficult to make, to have, to continue with a regular communication.
And the thing is, it's, even if it was just a text message to say, oh, these are the times when I'm free, these are the days that I'm not working, these are the days that I haven't got something on. Um, when are you free? It's when you get a commitment to that, and then that commitment falls through for whatever reason, being genuine or ingenuine. I think it sort of feels, you feel let down, you feel
Yes.
hurt. Um, and I can completely appreciate that, because I think it's sort of like, you have got the challenge of the time difference, but you've also got the challenge of, you and Kyle are working all week, and so the evenings and the weekends are yours. Your evenings are a different time of day to us. So we've got to find some balance of accommodation. Like for me, the time that I get to speak to you is so super important. And if I have to break that time for whatever reason, one of the kids is ill or something's come up, it kills me, because I'm like, oh my god, I miss you so much. I'm so sorry. This has come up, and immediately I'm like, we need to rearrange. So tell me when is best for you. Tell me when is best for you, because I've broken this situation. So tell me how I can fix it. And if you
Yeah.
haven't got that coming from the other side, then it does feel like you are the one that's chase. It's like chasing the friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so I can feel myself welling up thinking about it. It's so, what's the right word? It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking
Mm.
when you try so hard and you always put times in place and you separate, you change your plans, and um So Stacey's part of, obviously she's my family. We're also friends as well, which is great. Is even better. We have a friendship group where we do a quiz, and it's an online quiz. It's our equivalent of going to a pub or a bar and having a drink or having dinner. We'll all sit down, and we're all almost 40, so we'll have tea and coffee instead of a couple of beers. But unless I'm on one of my wine days, I guess. But we'll sit and we'll have a chat, and we'll do the quiz, and we'll have fun, and we'll catch up with everyone. And we used to do it once a month. And in COVID, we did it weekly. Like, there's only so many questions you can ask, but we made an effort. We did it almost pretty much every week during COVID, and up until this year, we did it every single month. This year we've done it once, and today's the 1st of June. Obviously this podcast isn't going out on the 1st of June, but that's 5 months, and we've done one. So you can see how. And okay, some of it I had to cancel, other people had to cancel, but we made sure we did it, and we kept communicating. And I think that's the biggest key. If you're not communicating with your friends, they are the ones who are going to sit there thinking, why are you doing this to me? Why am I
Yeah.
being punished for something? Because that's how it feels like as well sometimes, that you're not good enough. You're the person who, you know, you can see on social media what your friends and family are doing. Social media is the best and worst thing in the world. It really is. Like, I love it so I can see what everyone's doing, but I also hate it because I can see what everyone's doing. Um, in the
I
nicest
agree.
respect.
I agree completely. I mean, especially after I had the girls, and some of my friends had not got children yet, and I'd be sat there and I'd be like, "Oh my god, they're out together. That person's with that person, and I normally go out with these people, and they haven't invited me." And I would have said no. I would have said no. I know I would have said
Yes.
no. And I know they would have not wanted to make me feel bad by asking me for me to have to say no. So there was never any malice or ill intent or anything like that. But you sit there and you beat yourself up because you're like, oh my God, they're doing this and they haven't asked me to do it, or they're
Yes.
together and I've not been invited. And I think it's like you become a bit of a victim. You become a
Yeah.
bit of a, oh my god, like I have I said something? Have I done something to upset this person? And but especially when it's a person who will put a massive amount of effort into aspects of their life, your life, and so on and so forth, because you know that they're capable of doing that. And you've had those times in the past where they have put huge effort in, equal amount of effort as what you're putting in. You do get to a stage where you think, well, is it me or is it them? Because they
Yes.
used to do this. They used to put this in, they used to put this effort in, they used to make this time, and now they're making the choice. And it is a choice to not. And it's
Yeah.
like, I think it's like, it's such a taboo thing because you don't want a confrontation, because then you're sort of facing the realities of what could be the end of a decades long friendship. So
Yeah.
you just ignore it for a little while and you think, oh, maybe they're just having a bad time, and maybe there's stuff going on that they're not talking to me about, but you are the person that they talk to. So you know that if there was, so either they've stopped talking to you or there is nothing wrong and they're just choosing to look at put themselves first. And it's like, I think, and I can say this from experience, you are a very selfless person. So you do put people ahead of yourself a lot of the time.
Oh, every
But
time.
and I think then to me, and I look at it from an outside perspective, because obviously I love you dearly. Your cousin is your first best friend and your longest lasting best friend. That your time is valuable too, and
Yeah.
you have to take a step back and say enough is enough. And
I
I
think as
have put
well,
every ounce of energy into this.
yes. I think as well, sometimes you have to take that step back and say, am I being accommodating to somebody, or am I being a doormat and just letting people walk all over my kindness?
Yeah, which is very
And
easily done in a kind-hearted person because you want to see the best and
yeah.
not the worst.
And I think moving to America has made me really, really look into that more. It's making me put better boundaries in place and really think, is this beneficial to my life? Especially with obviously going through fertility treatment now, my mind has to be focused. My mind has to be the best it can be. I have to be as healthy as I can be. And that starts firstly with your mind and setting healthy boundaries with people. And if this friendship is no longer of value to me the way it was, I'm not saying ending a friendship, I'm saying if the way it was valued to me before is not valued to me now, sorry, something's creaking, then something has to change. I have to put a boundary in there to protect myself. And I understand the other person may be protecting themselves. That is fine. That's when communication comes in. You have to talk about it and you have to, say, look, I'm going through something. We're taking a step back. It is like just in a relationship, like a sexual relationship, a romantic relationship. We are taking a step back. We're taking a break. I still love you, but we're taking a break.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
That's I think it's also really, really important to remember that it's okay to let go of a friendship. Like you don't have to be you don't have to stay in a friendship just because you've been friends for 20 years or 5 years or even a few months. If it's not working anymore, it's not working anymore.
No, and I think that's it. It's like cutting the strings as such. I mean, I had an example. A girl who she was quite a bit younger than me, but we had a really good. We started working together at the same time, and I felt like she was excited because I was quite worldly at the time. I like to travel, I like to party, I like to do all the things that I did when I was in my early 20s. I just got out of a long term relationship. Like I was living my best life. And she sort of like jumped onto that bandwagon with me. And
Right.
again, very similar sort of like integration into each other's families, into each other's friendship groups. And it's sort of, we went on holiday together and stuff like that. And I hate the phrase red flag and green flag, but there was 100% red flags that I ignored, that came to sort of like a culmination eventually. So one of those red flags were we went on holiday together and we had been out all day, partying, drinking, and we came back to the hotel room and she'd had some money stolen out of her
Oh,
bag
okay.
and accused me of stealing the money from her.
Oh, wow.
And I just
You've been
sort
out
of like,
together?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. So at that point, I was just like, look, I don't need to take your money. I've got my own money. It's absolutely fine. If I needed the money, I would ask you, or I'd ring my parents and ask them. That was the situation. And I put it down at the time to the just that she'd had a lot to drink and, maybe she didn't realize that she took that amount of money out or that it had been stolen by somebody from the hotel or something like that. And I was like, right, we just need to make sure everything's in the safe. And I just sort of passed it off because I was trying to be a bit more of the grown up about it. And I didn't want it to
Yeah.
ruin the holiday. Um, and it wasn't never brought up again. It wasn't mentioned again. Um, and she and that was it. Our friendship carried on. We went on holiday again with each other after that. It wasn't something that sort of like I was like she didn't want to be friends with me anymore because she thought I'd stolen from her. And we carried on, and she sort of like we went through a lot together. she moved away for university. I used to go down and travel to see her. When she came home, we used to make sure we spent time with each other. Then she moved away to work. And again, I traveled down to see her because I wanted to put that time and effort into that friendship. Like, and then it's like all of a sudden the contact became minimal. Um, and I was with Matthew at the time. We were trying for Penny. Um, I was really struggling with the miscarriages. And then I got pregnant with Penny. She helped plan my baby shower with my other two best friends. There was loads of, like, oh, it was so, so exciting. It was all so exciting. And then literally 8 days after I gave birth to Penny, she rang me, and she was drunk. You could tell she was drunk, and she said to me, "I think our friendship has run its course. I don't feel like you know anything about my life or anything about me anymore. Um, your life is obviously going down a different path to me." Um, and I was absolutely floored, completely floored. I just had a baby, just had a baby, and this girl was saying that she didn't know I didn't know who she was anymore, and that I wasn't a good friend because I never asked her about what was going off in her life and what she was doing. And I was just like, wow, like, is this really, like how she's feeling? And I remember getting off the phone and being absolutely heartbroken. I was obviously very hormonal. And Matthew's like, she must just be drunk and she must be this and she must be that. And it was very much, she was going to be bridesmaid at my wedding. It was very much sort of like, planning all of that. And then I didn't speak to her for 6 months. Didn't speak to her for 6 months. And then she rang me um, from the hospital. She was in the hospital having some surgery, not elective, not anything serious or anything like that. And, she was telling me how much she missed me and everything the other. And then she's like, oh, I'll have to come up because I know we're going to have to start looking at bridesmaid dresses. And I'm like, I got off the phone and I was like, you've not spoken. She's not spoken to me for 6 months and she thinks that
Was she
she's.
still expected to be a bridesmaid?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
And Matthew's like, "You're gonna have to tell her," because at this point, I bought all the bridesmaid dresses. It was only literally months away from the wedding, and so I did. I was really honest, and I said to her, I said, "Look, I really want you to be there. I want you to be at my wedding, but, the fact that we haven't spoken in so long, I haven't included you as part of the wedding party anymore." Um, and she lost it. And when I say lost it, like literally kicking off. And I haven't heard from her since, literally.
So I
And
think that
that
one of the things
that
with
is
that is go ahead.
that is it. And like, I was floored, absolutely floored, because I was like, I didn't expect her to not. I didn't expect her to be happy, but I didn't expect her to just sort of like cut all communication. And it just made it really, really challenging to then sort of move forward because it was so immature. It was a very
Yes.
immature reaction. And here I was with a child and planning a wedding, and it probably was the most hurtful thing for me to go through from a friendship point of view ever. And I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it since. And it felt like it felt like she died. It felt
Right.
like she died. It was like all of a sudden I'd gone from this person being there to just being gone. And it's so hard to explain that to somebody who's not experienced it. But it literally felt like I was grieving the friendship that we had and the friendship that we could have continued. And Matthew couldn't get his head around it. It's like, but she said all these hurtful things and she's done all these horrible things to you. And but I really did care about her, and I was worried about her because obviously, the way that she was behaving at this time, the things that you would see on social media, you know, it 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 was a bit worrying. But I had to make the choice that I didn't want that kind of volatility in my life. I needed consistency now. I had children, and I didn't need to be fighting like teenagers in a playground.
Right. Yeah.
So at that point, I opted to just block on everything. And so even if she decided that her behaviour was completely unacceptable and she needed to apologise and she needed to do what she needed to do, I was like having none of it. So
Yeah.
she cut the ties first and then I cemented them solidly shut. So, and I think even now, like because I'll see stuff from a sister or a mom and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, I do hope she's happy, and I do hope that she's living a good life, and I hope that she is enjoying you know the life that she's living like now. But I still sort of it gives me a little bit of heartache sometimes when I think, oh,
Yeah.
you were such a fun person to be around, and we went through a lot of things together.
I think sometimes um, alcohol is a big factor, and they say that you say things truthfully when you've had a few drinks. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I think that you exaggerate the truths when you've had a drink, because you've got this confidence, and because of how it affects your brain and the connectivities and things in your head, you're saying things that aren't necessarily true. Like maybe 10% of what you're saying is true. Maybe maybe you didn't ask her one day how she's feeling, but for the other 6 days of the week you did. But because that one day is the day that she remembers,
Yeah,
and that's the only thing that the alcohol is making her pick up on, is that one time. That's so I'm not saying people shouldn't drink. I'm really not. I'm not anti alcohol at all. I just think that it does have a big part to play in emotions and in friendship
absolutely,
groups. You know,
absolutely.
I know people who don't drink at all. I know people who drink far too much. I know people who drink in between. I don't think that it makes any difference to them as a person, but I do think it affects how friendships evolve around that. Like I don't
Yeah,
spend my time with somebody who drinks too much just because I don't drink much. So
yeah,
I don't get to the state where I'm falling over or throwing up and things like that. So it's just I have some best friends who do, well, some of the bestest people who do that, but I don't want to do it with them.
no, and I think that's it, isn't it? It goes back to what we talked about last time when it comes to boundaries.
Yes.
And putting those boundaries in place, of what you're comfortable with, um, is a very grown up thing to do because I think you know if you don't have those boundaries, if you don't set those boundaries within your friendships, then how do those people know what you are comfortable with and what you aren't comfortable with? Because if you just, like you said, the phrase, be a doormat and just allow those behaviors to keep happening and there's no boundaries in place, then it becomes a challenge for that other person to understand why they've done something that may have crossed your boundary. But when you put those boundaries in place and people still cross that invisible line and continue to do that, when you've sort of got to take a step back and say, well, I love you. You I will always be here, but I have to take a step back.
Yeah.
I cannot emotionally keep putting myself through this turmoil of thinking I've done something wrong or I'm not good enough because you can't respect my boundaries.
Yes. And I think that's the thing, you know, it is okay to put those boundaries in place. It's okay to move
Absolutely.
on. Don't don't be a doormat. I've probably learnt the hard way over the last couple of years, but don't be a doormat, and it's okay to outgrow a friendship. It's fine. It's not. And you can look back and adore the times that you spent with that person and
Mhm.
have the best memories. It doesn't mean that they weren't worthwhile. It doesn't mean that they weren't a good person. They may be the best person. They're just not right for you right now.
Yeah.
It's like in relationships, you may
Absolutely.
find the best guy ever, but you know, he may just not be the one for you, but he might be the best guy in the world. It's the same with friendships. This friend may be the best person you could ever wish for, but they just don't fit with you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it's okay if it's a long-term friendship that's grown apart. It's okay. It doesn't
And I
mean either
think
of you are bad people.
you've got to take away from it as well is the experiences that you've had together in these friendships, and the learn the things that you've learned along the way, and the happiness and the joy that you've got out of it, and you're essentially growing with people. But what you've got to, especially when it's longer term relationships, so childhood friendships going into adulthood, is that your lives change so much. Like from being sort of like 12, 13 to being almost 40, how much has your life evolved during that time? Like, how have you evolved as a person? It's for a relationship to stand the test of time. And that's somebody that lives with each other every single day, and, marriages, children, etc. That's hard. A friendship is even harder because you've not got that every day living with each other. You've got to work at a friendship, but when it becomes hard work, it when you've got so many other avenues in your life that you can put your time into, you just sort of think, do I need this?
Yeah.
What am I? I'm One of my managers back in, probably 13 years ago now, once said to me, there's two types of people in this world. There is the radiators and there is the drains. The radiators are the ones that bring warmth into every room and they fill the room with energy. And, you can feel the energy coming off them, the same as you would do with a radiator. The drain is the one that sucks everything out of the room and
Yes.
all of the energy out of the situation. And I think you can put that phrase into every aspect of your life. There will always be the givers, the warmth, the radiators, but there'll always be the takers and the suckers and the energy drainers. Um,
Yeah.
and you can
I
live
really
with
like
those
that. I've not
people.
heard that before. I really
Yeah, no,
like that.
I hadn't, and I use it a lot now. Um, and it's like you've only got so much you can give, and a friendship, the same as a relationship, you've got to pour into each other.
Yeah.
If you're pouring everything out of your cup's going to get empty eventually. In a friendship or relationship, you've both got to be pouring into each other's cup, so that cup never gets empty, and sometimes it has to overspill.
Yeah.
And it's, if it's you don't have that balance, and sometimes one person might be pouring more than the other, and that's okay, because there are going to be times where you struggle. There are going to be times when it's a battle. I mean, I remember when I was before I had Penny, and obviously, me and Matthew were really, really struggling, and how friends were getting pregnant, and it was all over social media, and pregnancy announcements and birth announcements and baby pictures, and I had to not block, but unfollow, mute so
Yes.
many people on my social media that I loved and adored, because at that time I couldn't give any more than what I was giving. And I was there, and if they needed me, I was there, but I couldn't physically put any of the energy that I had into that at that point in time. And I'm sure you felt that way as well yourself. And
We've
then
actually
there's
felt
some.
that fairly recently, actually. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
Um, the day that we the day that we went to the fertility clinic was the day that a pregnancy announcement from somebody very close to me went on Facebook, one of the social media. I think it was Facebook. I can't remember. Um, and it's not a family member, it is a friend. Because I know a couple of my family members are currently pregnant right now. It wasn't one of them. Um, it was a friend who put a pregnancy announcement on there, and at the same time, I'm reading it as I'm sat in the fertility clinic, thinking, I don't know, I don't know if I can look at this right now. I don't know if I can text her and say congratulations. I don't know what I can physically do right now because I understand it's the best time for her, but it's not for me. And
Yeah.
but then it twists around and makes you feel selfish.
But you can be happy for somebody and be sad for yourself. But
Yes.
then you have to choose and protect yourself sometimes and to take a little bit of a step back. But that doesn't mean that you don't care about that person or that friendship. What it means is at that point in time, you just have to put a bit of a protection in place for you. And I think in those situations, it is tough because you can feel really guilty for not putting the effort into that friendship, but actually it's what you need at that point. And, I'm sure that some of these friendships that have come and gone over the years, it might be us that's not put the effort in. It might be them that's not put the effort in. But at some point, when it becomes completely one sided, that's when you've got to sort of say, well, actually, I know you've had a tough time. And I can appreciate the step back during that. But I was there for you. But then when you see, and I think that's another reason why social media is so hard, because I mean, do you really see what's going on with people in their real life? All this joy and amazing things, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and it's all over social media. And I'm so happy when actually that person might be completely miserable at home. And then
Yeah.
we're missing those cues because we're only seeing what's on social media and sort of feeling like, oh, they must be okay because they're posting it on social media. So you sort of, you take a step back and you don't have those conversations. But when you do have the conversation and you're trying and you're really fighting and you're really working for it, and you've respected their boundaries and you've respected, their ebbs and flows, because it is like that. But I think sometimes it does become
Yeah.
a one-way street.
It's exhausting,
Yeah.
and that the social media thing about only seeing the best stuff, that is something that I over the last year I'm trying to really actively better myself at, I guess is the right way of saying it. I put the good things and the bad things on there. If I'm sad, I'll put on there why, and um because I want people to know it's okay. Again, so it's not just me.
Yeah,
It's not
I
just me
agree.
who's feeling sad right now. It's not just me who's struggling with XYZ. The amount of people who don't realize that somebody's going through something because they don't talk and communicate. And
Absolutely.
there's only so much you can do if people aren't telling you the truth. So I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Um, go ahead.
But you are a wonderful person, and I know there has been times I mean, we are very, very lucky to have each other. We're very, very lucky to
Yeah.
have the friendship that we've got, and to only be, 7 months difference in age, and the fact that our parents were so close, and our grandparents were so close, has given us that solid standing to our friendship as well as our family
Yes.
relationship. And we've seen each other's struggles, and there's been times where we've not been able to 100% be there for the other person, and vice versa, because of the struggles that we've been feeling. But it's always been a positive end, because we've always said, we've always been honest and
Yes.
said, I love you, but I can't be there right now because I'm going through this. And that's all it
Yes.
takes sometimes. All it takes sometimes is just that pure,
Honesty.
honesty of
Yeah.
saying, I am having a really tough time. I love you and I will be there for you, but I am struggling.
You need
And
to respect my
yeah,
wishes right now.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's it, and I think that's how friendship should be. I think it is how
Yeah,
friendship should be. I think you've got to understand that you're individuals and that you aren't tied to each other um, day in and day out, but also at the same time, the friendship is there for a reason,
yeah,
and it's the same as everything in life. If there's no balance between who's putting what effort into, and I will honestly say that I've been one of those. I probably have been on the other end of this conversation. I've stopped putting effort into things, and I probably didn't even do it consciously, but you
I think
can't
sometimes
change
when it's
what's
a one-off,
happened.
it's different to being a recurrence.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's
going back to how we're only 7 months apart and our families and things, sometimes I wonder if that's a hindrance to people, to our future relationships, because we've been brought up in a way where we are so close. And
yes.
we have always been so close, and we've always done things together as a big family, like birthdays, Christmases, the New Year's Eve parties we used to have, family gatherings, and us all being together. Has that made us expect too much from other people because we get that
Uh,
naturally from
yes.
each other?
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, Emma will say, "We don't need friends because we've got sisters, we've got cousins. We don't need,"
yeah,
when we're all gathered, at each other's homes over the years and stuff like that, have we actually really needed these friendships? Because I don't think we have. I don't think we've. I
no,
think if real in realistic terms, we could have been like some commune where we were all just together and we wouldn't have
we're a
actually cared
secret,
if there was anyone else there.
we're a secret cult.
And I think the thing is we are so lucky. We are so
Yeah,
lucky because
yeah,
we have got the family group that we have. But I think also as well, that's why we are so giving and caring in these relationships because um it's how we have been raised,
yes,
and the love that we have for each other. And, even from the other side of the world, like that you being away, Beth being away, Emma is literally working all hours that God sends, me and Cherry and Kirsty raising children literally within streets of each other, and we may not see each other for weeks and weeks at a time. So I
yeah,
think but there's never any of that sort of like bitterness. I can't
no,
imagine Cherry sitting there and saying, "Oh God, Stacy hasn't been to see me, or she hasn't texted me, or she hasn't said let's do something with the girls." I can't imagine Beth sat in Australia thinking, "Oh, Emma's not liked one of my Facebook posts this week," or you but maybe 10 years ago it might have been different because
yeah,
we are. I will keep saying this, don't we? We are nearly 40.
oh,
So I think you do view things very differently. The older you
yeah,
get, the more you think, well, I ain't got time for this. I ain't got energy to
yeah.
put into this.
You just want to
Ah,
respect.
yeah.
I think it is that I know everyone goes on about the wokeness nowadays and things. I don't think it's a woke thing. I think it right with this. I think it's just people are finally respecting themselves
Yes.
and their time and their boundaries and what
Yes.
they need in life. And so
Absolutely.
I watch, as most of us do, I watch Grey's Anatomy on repeat, and I always think I want my Christina Yang. I want my
Yeah.
Christina. I want my person. And I've always thought I just want someone to dance it out with me and stand on a table and just forget everything, or lay under a Christmas tree and look at the lights. Those kind of things. I want my friendship like that. I don't think it's ever going to be like that. I think obviously it's never going to be like that. It's unrealistic. But at the same time, having your person that you turn to is one of the most important things to have.
Mm.
I think that's what we're going to kind of end it on today is okay to let go, and it's okay to not feel guilty about letting go. But if you do find that person, you are so lucky, and you never know, you might find three of those kind of people throughout your life. You might find 10. So for the time that you do have with that friendship, make it matter. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it all adds to who we are as people, and I
Yes.
think, if you think the way that you are shaped by friendships, family members, relationships, jobs throughout your life, you are who you are because of these people that have come along on the ride with you. And I don't think that you can regret anything that you do in life.
No.
I don't think you should ever live with regrets. You should always take from even the worst situations what you've got out of it, what you've learned, how resilient you've become. And I think it's okay to mourn what could have been, but you also have to pull out of it all of the things that you've gained.
Best bits. Yeah. Okay. I think do you have anything you'd like to add before I wrap
No,
up, or are you?
no,
I think
all
that
good.
we did ramble on quite a bit today, so that's great. I honestly didn't realize that there was so much about friendships that they are so important. They are the most important thing is a good friendship. So I understand why this is a bit longer than my other podcasts. Um, but I really do hope anybody who is listening has realized it's okay to end a friendship, or for friendships to evolve not the way that you planned on them evolving. It is perfectly normal for things to change. So don't blame yourself, don't blame the other person, just take the best parts of it. So um again, thank you for everyone who's listening today. If you have any questions, if you want to get in touch with any of us, all our details are below. And until next time, we'll see you soon.